victims. There is Sir William Catesby, executed after the Battle of Bosworth, and the Duke of Norfolk, who died in the battle. There are one or two other lords and barons who saved their heads by fleeing abroad, and the last few lines of the list, characters without names of their own. It is enough to quote the end of the list: lords and other attendants, a pursuivant, scrivener, citizens, murderers, messengers, soldiers, etc., scene, England. Shakespeare is like the world, or life itself. Every historical period finds in him what it is looking for and what it wants to see. A reader or spectator in the mid-20th century interprets Richard III through his own experiences. He cannot do otherwise. And that is why he is not terrified, or rather not amazed, at Shakespeare's cruelty. He views the struggle for power and mutual slaughter of the characters far more calmly than did many generations of spectators and critics in the 19th century. More calmly, or at any rate more rationally. Cruel death, suffered by most dramatis personae, is not regarded today as an aesthetic necessity or as an essential rule in tragedy in order to produce catharsis, or even as a specific characteristic of Shakespeare's genius. Violent deaths of the principal characters are now regarded rather as an historical necessity or as something altogether natural. Even in Titus Andronicus, written or rewritten by Shakespeare, probably in the same year as King Richard III, modern audiences see much more than the ludicrous and grotesque accumulation of needless horrors which 19th century critics found in it. And when Titus Andronicus received a production like that by Peter Brook, today's audiences were ready to applaud the general slaughter in Act 5, no less enthusiastically than Elizabethan coppersmiths, tailors, butchers, and soldiers had done. In those days, the play was one of the greatest theatrical successes. By discovering in Shakespeare's plays problems that are relevant to our own time, modern audiences often, unexpectedly, find themselves near to the Elizabethans, or at least are in the position to understand them well. This is particularly true of the histories. Shakespeare's history plays take their titles from the names of kings: King John, King Richard II, Henry IV, Henry V, Henry VI, Richard III, King Henry VIII, a work partly written by Shakespeare towards the close of his literary activities, belongs to the history plays solely in a formal sense. Apart from King John, which deals with events at the turn of the 13th century, Shakespeare's histories deal with the struggle for the English crown that went on from the close of the 14th to the end of the 15th century. They constitute an historical epic covering over 100 years and divided into long chapters corresponding to reigns. But when we read these chapters chronologically, following the sequence of reigns, we are struck by the thought that for Shakespeare, history stands still. Every chapter opens and closes at the same point. In every one of these plays, history turns full circle, returning to the point of departure. These recurring and unchanging circles described by history are the successive kings' reigns. Each of these great historical tragedies begins with a struggle for the throne or for its consolidation. Each ends with the monarch's death and a new coronation. In each of the histories, the legitimate ruler drags behind him a long chain of crimes. He has rejected the feudal lords who helped him to reach for the crown. He murders first his enemies, then his former allies. He executes possible successors and pretenders to the crown. But he has not been able to execute them all. From banishment, a young prince returns, the son, grandson, or brother of those murdered, to defend the violated law. The rejected lords gather round him. He personifies the hope for a new order and justice. But every step to power continues to be marked by murder, violence, treachery. And so, when the new prince finds himself near the throne, he drags behind him a chain of crimes as long as that of the, until now, legitimate ruler. When he assumes the crown, he will be just as hated as his predecessor. He has killed enemies, now he will kill former allies.